If you want to find out who God is, this is the place to find out, because God is alive and well and here, and people know it. My name is Donna Olsen. I'm a deacon in the Diocese of Indianapolis. I've been a deacon for 12 years as of last month, and I've been doing prison ministry for almost that long. I started coming out here shortly after I was ordained, and I haven't missed a week since, except for when I've been on vacation. I'm usually here 2 to 3 days a week. I'm here at Plainfield Correctional Facility. This is a, level 2 to 3 correctional facility. We have about 1,100 men, of which you'll probably, thank you very much, of which you'll probably see somewhere between 60 and 65 or 70 men. You're going to notice the road goes down, or the path goes down. That's so that we're a little lower than ground level right now, and that way the fence doesn't have to be quite so tall to keep people from escaping. So now we're going to go through the first of 2 doors. One of these doors will open, and we'll go through, and the other one won't open until it's closed. Again, that's to make sure that nobody leaves without permission. In 12 years, I have never stood on the grass in any prison ever, because you don't do that, but apparently for the moment it's okay. This is the chapel right here. This is where we'll spend most of the day, except for our visit to the hospital. We're going to see a class in the morning of about 35 to 40 men, and then a small Bible study group in the afternoon with about maybe 20 of them. Before we go in, take a good look at all the flowers that are here on the outside of the chapel, because some of the inmates, their job would be to plant all those flowers and then to take care of them. And taking care of them is a pretty difficult job, because they have to bring the water in a small container and pour it, and make 700 trips to put water on all those flowers, because we don't have hoses. A hose is right up there with a power cable or an electric cord. It's something that could be used either as a weapon or for self-destruction, so there aren't any. We are here. This is part of the PLUS program, which is an educational and spiritual and emotional and character development program sponsored by the Department of Correction throughout the prisons in Indiana. This particular class is called Growing with the Matrix. We've watched, we've watched all 3 of the Matrix movies, part of Animatrix, and we've watched them from a spiritual and intellectual, philosophical level. Anybody have a bright thought you want to give to the world? Yes. When I became a deacon, I had no idea that this was the course that my ministry was going to take. I don't even like calling it my ministry, because somehow that sounds like we own it. But as I said, I expected to be more involved at a parish level and not as involved here. And for a while I was, and somehow it morphed. I think for every one of us has some things that have touched our lives. Someplace where we know there's pain and we know people need help, and it may not have anything to do with crime. It may have something to do with hunger. It could be fear. It could be mental illness. The list is endless. The list of things that can go wrong in human life is pretty long. And we don't always have answers to give, but we have help to give, because we're in this together. You don't have to push me in the right direction. Just take my hand and we'll walk together. What we do need to do is be ready to love the people who need love the most. We can be a reflection of God's love whether we're ordained or not. We're a reflection of God's love every time we make eye contact with another human being. We can also be a slightly more intentional reflection of God's love. And so we do need some people who are ordained, who you can see the outward and visible sign and know that the inward and spiritual grace is there. The more deacons we have, the more ministry we can do. I know some deacons that work full-time. I no longer work full-time. I teach part-time at Ivy Tech, because I got to make some money somewhere. But there are deacons who work full-time, and they minister to people through their work or in addition to their work. They help their parish do a lot of outreach. Involving Episcopalians in prison ministry is sometimes difficult. One of the things Jesus says to everybody, to all his followers, is you must be wise as serpents, innocent as doves. prison ministry is an area where Episcopalians are awfully good at being innocent as doves. We're not very good at being wise as serpents. We want to forgive everybody. We want to share God's love with everybody. And sometimes that isn't good for the person that we're trying to share it with, and it sometimes isn't good for us. And so we got to keep parameters on what we do. This is the prison hospital, and I usually come to the hospital sometime on Thursdays, either in the middle of the day for a while or after the Bible study at the end of the day. One of the interesting things about coming into the hospital here is you have absolutely no idea what is going to happen when you walk into a room and you talk to someone. The emotional content can get extremely high. Someone can be in here for something like writing a lot of bad checks. And then once you get to prison, I think part of it is the stress that happens to one's life. If there's any sickness waiting to happen, it does happen when you get to prison. And a 7-year sentence can become a death sentence if you get to prison and realize you're dying of cancer. No one wants to die in prison. Richard, how are you today? Actually, I followed a man to IU hospital, and I was sitting with him holding his hand when he died. They're all afraid of dying alone. There are hospital workers, and one of the things they do is they just sit with people that are close to death so that when they die, they don't have to die alone. This particular Bible study, we get usually somewhere between 15 and 20 people, which makes it the smallest Bible study in the entire prison, I think. It happens during the day, and that's intentional because we bring in clergy from several of the parishes. We keep it small so that we can all talk, because again, part of the whole Episcopal ethos is that we talk about the gospel, and that's how we learn. Now, as far as I know, most of what Jesus did was hang out with people and have a good time, and occasionally come out with something that was life-changing and worth hearing. And most of the time it was fun, and so we usually have a lot of fun in here.
So I do want to ask that when we open up in prayer or whatever, that we pray for my mom that she'd find a good, reliable car.
The gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Christ. For on the night he was handed over to suffering and death, Jesus took bread, said the blessing, broke the bread and gave it to his friends and said, "Take, eat. This is my body, which is given for you. Do this for the remembrance of me."
What we need to do is be ready to love the people who need love the most.